Hey y'all, welcome back to this week's Weekly Hyperfixations. I'm Riot. Um, I look a little wonk because I'm about to be house sitting, so next week we will have a different background, but it'll only be for next week. So fear not. Upload will still be scheduled and everything. Everything will be as normal. Let's get started with the more serious topics. They're not that much more serious, but still. Let's see. What should I start with? Something positive this week. The New York governor, Kathy Hochul, I think is how it's pronounced. She has declared that they are implementing free school meals for children in New York. There's no reason children shouldn't have free meals at school because they're literally required by law to go. In America, they are legally required to have some form of schooling. So if you're requiring them to go, why are you making them pay for food? It's a basic human right. Anyway. But good news, the New York governor has implemented free school meal policy. A little silly goofy thing, Gavin Newsom's press office Twitter account has taken a new marketing directive, basically. And it's very humorous, very, what would the word be? Almost rage bait. But it's working. And that's the thing, is that it's marketing. So even though it's rage bait, it's still doing its job. And it's very beautiful. So that's excellent. Something not good. Ring Camera, the doorbell camera service that also does in-home security systems, so like cameras in people's houses, the doorbell cameras, things like that. That's what Ring does. They have signed a deal with law enforcement. So functionally, the government can have a live feed of the inside of your house now. So a lot of people are canceling their Ring camera or finding an alternative to that brand. Let's see here. Oh my God. This is something that made me so pissed off. I do not pay attention to book talk because I know that most of them are only doing so for clout and a lot of them don't have any media literacy and or are glorifying things that should not be glorified and romanticized. And there was an event this past week called the Sinners and Stardust Ball, where a bunch of, it was functionally like a book convention, sort of, but specifically for authors and readers that focus on smut, which is just sex. If you're unfamiliar with that word, that's what it means. And it really, really shows how badly young women have been romanticizing the stuff that happens in books that have smut, because so many male authors were sexually assaulted, cornered, and all of this shit. And it's deplorable. Like, also anyone who cosplayed a character that was a big fan favorite, there was so much assault that happened at this event that they have had to like extremely crack down on security for that event. It was in Boston as well. So it's on the East Coast, but they have to crack down so unbelievably hard on this event. This was the first of its kind. It was supposed to be a fun event. And as per usual, people who have no media literacy or common sense went to this event and ruined it for everyone. I'm surprised that they're even considering keeping the Sinners and Stardust Ball as an event. I would assume it would be shut down completely. Instead, they're just taking more steps for security and things like that, which is really good. But really, really deplorable stuff. And here's the thing. I know it's not because they only read smut. I'll be so honest with y'all. I read fan fiction all the time, mostly smut. You can be normal about it. It's entirely possible to be normal about it. But so many people aren't normal about it. Especially fandom, and I've talked about this before, but fandom culture in general, since the pandemic, has gotten millions of times worse because people will just do whatever they want now. With no concept of consequences of actions, you know? And I don't know why, you know, as someone who has seen people on TikTok who read smut act not normal about it, and there's a difference between acting normal about it. There's two different ways of not being normal about it, really. There's people who aren't normal about it, but understand that they're not normal about it, and therefore make jokes about it, and aren't that serious about it. And then there's people who are being 100% serious. They have no concept of self-reflection or consequences for their actions, and they also exist in those same spaces. So as someone who has seen that spectrum of people who I would genuinely be uncomfortable being with in a room, even if we were both AFAB individuals, versus others that I've seen, I am surprised that they didn't put more security, but it is well known that AMAB individuals who are victims of assault like that are often unheard because people don't think it's possible, which makes no sense. But I am disappointed that they didn't have more security at that event, but I am also glad that they are like, okay, we're not going to cancel. We were going to plan on next year. We're not going to cancel that. But tickets are going to be extremely limited. There's going to be way more security. They're doing the harder but better for the, not entirely better for the community, but there are two ways to deal with that problem. Make the problem not exist anymore, which would be canceling it, or making it a genuinely fun event that is safe for everyone. And I am glad they're taking that route, because that means that they are serious about having that event at all. So, that's the tweet on that from me. I'm so glad I stopped reading anything, like any real books like that. Oh my God. Y'all, the books I have are like ancient Greek, Shakespeare, like, yeah. I do have a couple newer books, but I think most of them are written by, oh no, I do have one that's written by a guy. Yeah, I think I only have two books that are written by guys. And one of them I did not count because I read it in high school, and I only own a copy because because I think it's a funny book. Yeah. And I haven't read it yet, but the book I have that's written by a guy is The Midnight Library. I still don't know anything about it besides the description on the book, so because my to be read list is infinite. I got super sidetracked with that and spent a lot of time talking about that, so I will move on from that. there's going to be a new Lego Batman game, Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. I'm very excited about that, mainly because I don't know anyone that was excited about the Horizon Zero Dawn Lego game. So to me and people in my circles, there hasn't been a Lego game in like forever. Well, that's not true. Hasn't been a big Lego game since the Skywalker saga. So I am very excited about that. I'm also just generally excited because not terribly long ago, I played a little bit of the DC Villain Lego game with my partner. That was very fun. So I'm excited about it. Also, apparently the combat is a little bit based off Arkham, I think? The Arkham game? I don't know. I'll be so real with y'all. I don't really care how the controls work. I just want a Lego game. Kirby Air Riders had a 50-minute direct, literally explaining the controls, every game mode, things like that. Very exciting. There's a lot of new riders that you can be. And it was very funny because Sakurai kept making jokes and was like a little sassy with it, and I really enjoyed that because it was funny to me. But I'm very excited about that game because I played that game with one of my best friends ever, the original game on the GameCube, during a vacation in high school. I think late high school. So I'm very excited to see a new one. Let's see. Let me just hold on. Okay. Ooh. Actually, I'll touch on this first. Final Fantasy XIV is having a collaboration with Monster Hunter Wilds. They did this with the previous Monster Hunter game. Basically, in game, there was a trial where you fight Rathalos. I did it pretty recently. And they're going to be adding a new one for Monster Hunter Wilds. And we also get the mount from Monster Hunter Wilds. So that's fun. On the other side of Final Fantasy XIV, enough people have reported the common plugin Mare Synchronos, which basically what that does is Final Fantasy XIV allows player side plugins that, you can alter your appearance a little bit so you can get pictures that you like, but it doesn't affect any of the gameplay. It doesn't affect anything for anyone else. And there was this plugin called Mare Synchronos that basically made it so if someone else changed their character appearance, if you chose to share that information with each other, you could see what they were seeing on their computer. And that is getting shut down. And the Final Fantasy XIV role-playing community, there's a large chunk of the role-playing community that was purely dependent on it. A lot of RP centers that were like club themed are going to die, basically. Another thing is that this also means that you can't, like, if you take pictures with Mare Synchronos, if you then go into G-Pose, you can take, it's the photo mode. You can take pictures of you and your friends in the outfits that everyone is seeing on their client side. On their computer. Yeah. Which is really good if you're trying to take like group photos. But now that won't exist at all. You won't ever be able to see it, what other people see on their computer, unless they screenshot it from their computer and send it to you. And apparently on any given, like a Friday night, over 100,000 players use it. So apparently it is a big thing within that community that some people were only still playing the game because they could do that. Because the story has been lacking for a lot of people. So a lot of people will likely be canceling their subscriptions. And most people are under the impression that the thought process there was that, oh, if we take this away, then people will have to buy things from the MOG station, like have to purchase with real money the cosmetics we put out every once in a while. That's not at all true. People will just stop playing the game. So that's going to be an interesting transition. But, you know, good while it lasted. But I do think they're going to see a tank in user base. Especially since apparently Dawn Trail has not been super well received by people. And when Dawn Trail came out, people were review bombing. Because that's how negative the response was, really. So I am also kind of worried that Final Fantasy will just not, you know, knock on wood, but let's see here. This is a beautiful side note. One of my oomphs went to that con I mentioned at towards the end of last week's episode, I believe. It was a very small con, but it was very fun, and they were dressed as Captain Linebeck from Phantom Hourglass, and someone who was cosplaying Sanji asked them to shake them like that gif of Linebeck shaking Link. And it was the most beautiful cosplay interaction I think I've ever seen in my life, because Oomph got asked to rattle someone. Oh my god, it was beautiful though. Oh my god. I inhaled too hard. Okay. I will say, I only have a couple more things. Baby No Money did a song with Valorant, which I assume means that the big championship for that game is coming up, because that's usually why they produce a song every year. Let's see. Apparently they have started production on a film about the Backrooms, which is very interesting to me. I'm not super great with a lot of horror things, but I do like the lore of the Backrooms, and I hope that they keep it consistent, but I don't know, like how much real input any of the current existing lore is going to have on that. But I wonder if they might try to do SCPs in there as well. I feel like that would make it really good, but I don't know. I just really like Infinite IKEA, and I started thinking about Infinite IKEA. Okay. And the last thing I have in my notes is that last week, I think, let me check. Was it last week or the week before? Hold on. How long ago was this? Okay. We're on week 33. It was week 30 that I mentioned this. It was about the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad, right? So we're thinking about that. Have that in your mind. Gap made an ad for denim that didn't mention good jeans at all, but it had the entire group Cat's Eye in the video, and it's the best jeans commercial like ever. So that's the best response to watching a competitor in denim jeans tank, is to whip out the best ad for jeans like ever. So that was really beautiful. And the last thing on our list this morning, Pokemon had a presentation that was themed like found footage. So it was it felt like Resident Evil for most of it up until the big reveal at the end. But the big reveal, spoiler alert, today they announced Mega Victory Bell. I think he looks really funny. I can't for the life of me think of what he reminds me of, but I think it's really funny. I mean, he kind of reminds me of a potion bottle, but you know, but it was Mega Victory Bell, which is really cool. I do have another thing to talk about, which I do think I've mentioned. I mentioned it last week. But I'm here to mention it again because I will become insufferable about it and I will be watching it. So we will get to that in a moment though. We are going to move on to the pyramid now. First up on the pyramid is Baby No Money, because dude is side questing as you do. He not only did he have that new song with Valorant, but also he did a Hamilton cosplay this past like week and a half or so. Very good, very silly, very welcomed, very well received. So that's a banger. I also just like putting Baby No Money on the pyramid because he always has silly promotional images of himself, and that's always fun for the pyramid. Next up on the pyramid is Aubrey Plaza. She was recently on Amy Poehler's podcast, and you know, that was really cute because, you know, Parks and Rec reunion kind of thing. But also she talked a lot about how her grief about the passing of her husband feels to her. And it was a fairly somber tone, but it felt that whole conversation felt very peaceful. And Aubrey Plaza's on the pyramid because I'm really glad that, you know, part of processing grief is talking about it and being willing to talk about it in a space where, you know, so many people will hear it is a lot. And that really shows a growth in just how far she has come with dealing with grief. So that was very beautiful. And it was very sweet as well, of course. Next up on the pyramid is Chapel Roan, predominantly for her costuming in her European leg of the tour. It's been good the whole time. I think she's been on the pyramid or at least talked about a lot recently. Yeah, this is her third week in a row on the pyramid. Simply for the costuming for her European leg of the tour. It's just beautiful pieces of art. And deeply appreciated by a theater kid such as myself. So that's why she's on the pyramid. Next up on the pyramid, this is where I'm going to start talking about that thing. Next up on the pyramid is Robbie Daymond. A lot of reasons here. But first of all, and I mentioned this last week, the Critical Role had announced campaign 4, and they announced all of their players today, which, by the way, 13 players all at once. That's like twice as many as usual for Critical Role. But both Matthew Mercer and Brennan Lee Mulligan had a little fireside chat literally before recording today about, you know, just people's questions. And Matt had a really beautiful answer about how committed everyone on the usual cast of Critical Role is about, like, how adamant they are about Robbie being a permanent member of the cast. Which is just so sweet, and considering all of the rest of the cast have pretty much been here the whole time. So them also welcoming someone new into that family, and having a new permanent cast member, which they haven't had, is really cool. And I do think that Robbie Daymond fits in really well. I finally started watching the VODs for Bell's Hells, and I think even within just the first episode, he very easily fits into the group dynamic as Dorian Storm. And I am super biased because I am also a fan of a couple of roles Robbie Daymond has done. I've definitely talked about Final Fantasy 15 at least. But also just because I remember, you know, hearing that he was going to be in the campaign, and I had no idea who he was when Bell's Hells started. And then I didn't even watch Bell's Hells, and then I eventually, you know, watched my partner play through all of Final Fantasy 15, and then I was like, okay, yeah, no, this guy's great. I made a joke to my partner while watching the first episode of Bell's Hells. Robbie Daymond play a character that's confident on the outside but really nervous on the inside challenge. Like, or I don't even think I phrased that right. New challenge is for him to not play a character who is confident on the outside, really nervous on the inside. Because that's because I was looking at just a couple characters that I know of his, and they are all like that, and I'm like, ooh, did he get typecast? But also he made Dorian Storm himself, so you know, honestly, I don't blame you. I like to stick to a certain type of character too, so. But Robbie Daymond's on the pyramid because he is also in the cast for Campaign 4, and I'm very excited about it. Next up on the pyramid, to no surprise, he was also on the pyramid last week, is Brennan Lee Mulligan. This time, he's not just on the pyramid because he's the DM for Campaign 4. He's gonna have to manage, like, what did I say, 13 players? Dude, when I was learning D&D, I was told it was weird to have more than 4. I DM 5 people, and Critical Role usually has 7 or 8, and this is functionally double that. How in the world are you going to manage that combat? How are you going to do that, dude? Oh my gosh. And it's hard for me to, and to be fair, the campaign IDM is fairly new, but it still feels hard to, this is also my first time DMing, so there's that, but it feels very hard to make sure to touch upon every character's backstory at least a little bit throughout the campaign. There are 13 people. 13 people. That is, apparently they had to get 2 more tables. So now there's 5 tables to fit everyone on the set. That sounds so alarming to me. But that's why Brennan Lee Mulligan is on the pyramid. He's on the pyramid. Because that is an immense amount of work. And it is so cool to see a person take that on, because that's a lot of responsibility. But anyways, our top spot on the pyramid does go to Sakurai. Very based on the fact that I am very attached to Kirby Air Riders. Also, the graphics feel very similar to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And they did a good job, at least in what was shown in the direct. They did a very good job of compiling the things from the old game with the transition into a new game. Some people will not have heard of Kirby Air Ride before. So Kirby Air Riders is balancing the nostalgia of people who did play with new player base, and I think they've done that really well. So I'm very excited about that. And lo and behold, that's the pyramid for this week. Also, shout out to Sakurai for being a little more sassy. I'm not sure if that was just the translation or not, but some of the things he said do still come off as sassy, even if it was like how the translator said it. He still had to have said the basis for that, so I do still think that that was very entertaining. All right. That's our whole pyramid, y'all. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, next week's episode, I will have a completely different background because I will be recording wall house sitting. That has only happened once in the duration of Weekly Hyperfixations, but don't worry, everything else will be normal. So, I won't have my big lights, but that's probably okay. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all next week. Same time, same place. Stay safe out there, y'all. You know? And remember to take time for yourself. That's very important. I sort of feel like I've been going and going and going. So having time to just relax a little bit sounds great. So remember to take care of yourselves, y'all. It's very important. Anyway, I'll see y'all next week. Bye.